Your Excellency, Mr. Walid Jumblatt, good evening and good day. Good day to all our listeners in Washington, D.C., Lebanon, and beyond. So on behalf of our chairman, John Pratt, and the Council's board of directors and staff, I extend our sincere gratitude to Your Excellency for joining us today to share your invaluable insights on the current situation in and around Lebanon. I would also like to extend our gratitude to Mr. Sami Al-Qadi and the Lebanese for Lebanon Foundation for making this important conversation possible. So, ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency needs no formal introduction. His biography and accomplishments are linked in our event flyer for your reference. Before we begin the conversation, allow me to briefly introduce our council. Our council, founded in 1983, the National Council on U.S.-Arab Relations, is an American nonprofit, non-governmental educational organization committed to deepening American understanding of the Arab region, and is focusing on the ongoing college students, military cadets, and also policymakers. Through its efforts, the Council plays a vital role in strengthening and expanding the broader Arab-U.S. relationship. It's worth noting that the National Council is not a membership organization. So, Your Excellency, our last conversation here between us and the National Council and yourself was in April 2021. It's hard to believe it's been almost 3 years. When the COVID pandemic was a global crisis at that time, we talked about the COVID-19. The October 17 revolution was urging all Lebanese, all leaders of the traditional establishment in Lebanon to step down, and the economy and financial system were in free fall. Since then, we've witnessed the killing of the Hezbollah leader, Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, leaving his forces in disarray in South Lebanon and also in Syria. Israel back in Lebanon in the south. President Assad of Syria left the country with his forces disbanding itself and did not fight the HTS, the Harakat Tahrir al-Sham. And Lebanon has been without a president for over 2 years, with a caretaker government in place. So given these developments, how do you see the current situation in Lebanon today, and what do you see next?
Well, we have assisted at an earthquake. I mean, the falling down of Bashar al-Assad and his regime without a single fight. Was it predictable or no? I can't tell you. I don't think that neither the think tanks nor the intelligence, various intelligence of the world predicted such a rapid fall down of this regime that has been in place for the last 61 years. The Ba'ath regime is in power in Syria for the last 61 years, the Assads for the last 54 years. So it's a new Middle East that is now in front of us. A totally new Middle East with, unfortunately, total military superiority for the Israelis. But nonetheless, now we speak about the Syrian people have the opportunity to speak on their own, to speak for their own, to be free. And I think you have seen the terrible pictures of the prisons, I mean, similar to Auschwitz or similar to Birkenau in Germany after Nazi rule. I mean, you can see how much these people have suffered for decades and decades. Now they are free. You will ask me, Taib, what about Al-Julani or Ahmad al-Shara? I will tell you, let's give them a chance. Give the Syrian people a chance. And Julani, according to Western classification, is a terrorist or was a terrorist. Okay. Well, who was not a terrorist sometimes in history. Arafat was a terrorist. Then he landed up at the White House, having the Nobel Prize with Rabin, who is not not a terrorist, but with Perez, according to me, who is a terrorist. Okay. The Queen of Britain had to shake hands with Sinn Féin, the IRA, to finish the question or to settle down the question of the IRA. The IRA were also terrorists. Then they became, non-terrorist. This is history sometimes. This is the ifs of history. This is the strange turns of history. The main thing now, stability of Syria. Now this depends on the new regime, stability of Syria, tackling a new constitution that could enhance respect of minorities, respect of human rights, the respects of diversity. I've been to Syria several times. I know Syria. I know very well Syria. Okay. So it's composed of several communities, several ethnic groups, and plus even the Syrian people are so various in their approach. So this is why the new constitution should be very careful not to impose a one-party system. I don't think so. The signs of Julani, the signs of Ahmad al-Shara up till now are very good, very good. We need to give him a chance. Second, we have a problem in Syria, which are the Kurds that are occupying, with the Americans, the richest part of Syria. So we have to see how he can tackle with this problem, because any bloody clash with the Kurds will jeopardize the whole Syrian revolution. We are just at the start. Remember, we are just 3 weeks now. It started the 8th of this month. It's not only 3 weeks, just 3 weeks. Okay. We never had this phenomenon in the history. Maybe the Soviet Empire, yes, the Soviet Empire collapsed also in 1991, the same thing. And we are on the eve again, on the eve, and I hope this time it will succeed, on the eve of a new Arab Spring. Yes, Arab Spring that failed, or that was suppressed in Egypt, in Syria terribly, okay. In Tunisia, it ended up with a guy who's not that brilliant. But it started in Tunisia. So this is a big opportunity for the Arab world, and for the Arab people. But for Syria, I'm engaged in supporting this new revolution. Okay. As for the Syrian-Lebanese relations, I think it will establish a new model of Syrian-Lebanese relations, where, in a way that we have now to possibility of demarcating the borders between us and Syria, and refuse any dictate. We have embassies. We can through dialogue through embassies and through normal relations. Stability in Syria is a must for the stability of Lebanon. Stability in Syria is a must for the stability of Lebanon. This is why we have to we have to work jointly for the stability and the future of Syria. As for the future of Lebanon, finally, I have decided, with Timur, the president of the Democratic Gathering, we have decided yesterday to back Joseph Aoun as a president for the candidacy of president at the presidency. I think he's a model of stability, and he has done quite well, very well, during the past 8 years. And hoping that we'll be able to implement the agreement between us and Israelis. So it means withdrawal of the Israelis and dismantling of Hezbollah peacefully as long as possible in the south of Lebanon, for the sake of Lebanon and for the sake of Lebanese stability. That's my approach. That's what I have to say.
Well, thank you very much. That basically answered all my questions, but I will have to ask you a specific one on all of the above you mentioned on Syria and Lebanon. But let me start with Syria, because you mentioned Ahmed al-Sharra. And you're right, there are Western countries, including maybe the current administration, a bit optimistic, willing to give him a chance, especially like you mentioned, he's still a wanted terrorist, according to many countries. But also there are some Arab countries also not so optimistic. There are some here like Jordan, United Arab Emirates, still not optimistic of what they see. But I understand you personally congratulated him. And you personally probably think you have an upcoming visit probably to meet with him. So you talked about what you expect on the relationship, and how maybe just a little the point on the refugee situation. How do you see also a good compromise there for the relationship, the refugee? I have Lebanese refugees and Syrian refugees. Do you think that this could be resolved somewhat quickly? I know it's not easy, but is that something part of the conversation? And what message you just again you're going to convey to him from a Lebanese perspective?
I'll be going on Sunday. I pay him a visit with delegation, official delegation of the party and of the Druses. I mean, with Sheikh Al-Aql, Sheikh Sami Abdullah. Okay, and as for the refugees, of course, we have a big problem of refugees. Some of them went back. Some of them might expect, I mean, the relief, the declassification of the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham from a terrorist group to a normal group, because, I mean, the money coming from the United Nations to the refugees, to Syrian refugees in Lebanon, should be now paid in Syria, Then the past regime, don't forget that, the past regime, when you see the areas of Homs, of Daraya, of other places, well, it's total, they have destroyed entire villages and cities, even Aleppo. So it will take time, but I'm not afraid of that. They will come back. Tens of thousands came back from Idlib to Syria, from Turkey to Syria. I have no figures, I mean, now in front of me, how many came back. We have a problem that, well, also some minorities in Syria, the people of Nubl and Zahra, these are Shiites. Some people of Zainab also came to Lebanon, but everything I think will be settled with a kind of confidence. But I mean, and long-term policy. We have to see with him how he will tackle with that. But Syria needs a chance. People of Syria need a chance. Need a lot of help, and it's time to open to Syria. Most embassies have already opened anyway, but now it is for concrete acts. The Kurdish problem is different, because the Kurdish problem is linked to Turkey. The Qasd, how do you call it? The movement of the Kurds headed by, is considered by the Turks as being a terrorist. But Syria should be one. And here again, I mean, if we go back to the history of Arab nationalism, the Arabs mistreated terribly, from Nasser to the Ba'ath Party to the Kurds, trying to tell that the Kurds are Arabs. The Kurds are not Arabs. They are a different ethnic group, but they were part of Arab movement of national independence in the 30s, in the 20s, in the 40s. But the Kurds are not Arab. So they were persecuted terribly in Syria and in Iraq. Now in Iraq, they have achieved a kind of, how should I say, within the Iraqi framework, the the Iraqi state, they have a kind of autonomy. Now, in Syria, they are not that numerous, I mean, because where the Kurds are, you have also majority of Arabs, but it's part of Syria. And there also is the wealth of Syria, the oil of Syria, and agriculture of Syria, main agricultural land. This is where the Turks should help Syria. The Turks should help Syria. I mean, we'll see within what range. Plus also the Americans, because the Americans are occupying part of Syria there. They have some bases. So we have to see what are the American intentions there in Syria. Okay.
Well, thank you. I think you're also optimistic, and your message is to give Syria a chance. And I think this administration is trying to approach them, talk to them, which just right now we still don't know what the next administration would do. I mean, remember Trump already saying that Syria is not a strategic problem for and what's happening in Syria is a Syria-centric issue. So we'll see about that. You mentioned your visit also to Syria, that you will meet with members of the Druze community in there, and you have
no. I will not. I'm going to see just Ahmad al-Shara. I'm not going to see the Druze of Syria, because I need from the Druze of Syria at the same time. I don't want to interfere. I don't want to, how should I say, establish myself as a spokesman of the Druze of Syria. They have their own traditions. They have their own customs. We have our own also traditions and customs. Okay, I prefer not to mingle with their problems, but at the same time, I'm warn some of them that to be careful about the influence of the Israelis through the Sheikh al-Aql, through the spiritual leader of Palestine called Tarif. Sheikh Tarif, who is being helped, politically speaking, by Israel, of course, by the Emirates, maybe by the Americans. Sometimes he goes to Washington and New York, etc. Okay, Muwaffaq Tarif does not represent the Druzes of the Middle East. He represents himself in Palestine, in Israel, but does not represent the Druzes of Syria or Lebanon. So we have total conflicting views. If now he's willing to mingle with the Druze of Syria and trying to drag some Druzes to the sphere of influence of Israel, we are totally opposed to him and to his surrogates. So this is a very critical issue and very important issue. Syria should stay united and will stay united with the diverse communities, I mean, from the Druzes, from the Alawites, from the Armenians, from Turkmens, the Kurds, okay. But I mean, Syria should stay united, and I think it will stay united, but we have to work with a different environment on that, different factors mingling with Syria.
Well, staying on this issue, I think I remember I was still in government when Sheikh Tarif visited the United States back in I think end of 17, early 18, and I did see him, and I accompanied him on some of the meetings, official meetings in the government. And basically, his message was about the Druze of Syria. It wasn't Druze of Israel. But you're right. Actually, he's reaching out outside the Israeli Druze community. And recently, he was in the UAE, met with the Sheikh Hamad bin Zayed.
Yes.
And there is a possibility for him to come to the United States for a second visit. But I want to ask you on this. Some of that community in Syria, some element of the communities are calling to separate, like you mentioned, and you're against any kind of separations to create autonomous region, any of that. But Israel seems like is pressuring and just trying to work to create some kind of buffer zone in that Golan area, some buffer zone, because of the look at the new Syrian regime as a potentially an Islamic hostile regime to Israel. Remember, under the Assad presidency, father and son, over 50 years, that was pretty much a quiet area. So what are your thoughts on this?
I don't agree with this approach. Okay, the whole people of Syria were subjected to a tyrannical, barbarous regime for 54 years. including the Druze, including everybody, including even the Alawites, who, I mean, the Assad did not tolerate any Alawite dissidents. They killed many of the leaders, for decades. Okay, but we have a great opportunity as Druzes of Syria, and we were the ones in the 1925 and from 1925 to 1927 with the Syrian patriots, Sultan Pasha and the Syrian patriots, who unified Syria at that time against French partition plan, because at that time also General Guru in 1920 declared Syria divided. One Alawite state, one Sunni state, two states, state of Aleppo, state of Damascus, Sunni states, and the Druze so-called state. Then Sultan Pasha, fought over with the Syrian patriots, not on his own, with everybody, and they unified Syria. Now, the Israelis, what do they want? If they don't want to use the Druzes, they are using them in Palestine, in Palestine. Well, good soldiers, that's it. The approach of the Israelis, as for the Druzes, they use them as good soldiers. Sorry to say, I'm going to say it, good mercenaries to fight the Palestinians, to fight the Arabs, to suppress the Arabs, and here in Lebanon, in Syria, as a buffer zone. I don't think that, the patriots of Syria will accept to become, or to accept this end of being a mercenaries or good soldiers or a buffer zone. I don't think so, but it needs tremendous work, to prevent that. Second, by the accident of history, for the first time in the history of Syria, a non-Sunni governed Syria for the 54 years old. The Assads, non-Sunnis. But the past of Syria, the whole past of Syria was being ruled by Sunnis, moderate Sunnis, but by Sunnis. And if you go back to the history of Syria, the Druzes, Syria, it was before the independence in 1946, we had 400 years of Ottomans, Sunni Ottomans, ruling Syria. And more than that, the Ottomans and the Ottomans. So the majority of Syria is Sunni. We cannot change that. It's Sunni, and that doesn't mean that they are Sunnis, extreme Sunnis. They are Sunnis, moderate Sunnis, liberal Sunnis. The Ikhwan Muslimin was there, and they are part of Syria, part of the social background of Syria. So it's not new. It's not new to have a Sunni rule in Syria. So let's not go to extremes that, the danger of Sunnis. I don't believe in that. I don't buy that.
I understand. This is yet to be seen how the new government would work with the minorities, religious minorities, and also, like I said, the Kurds. I mean, that's another thing. We'll see how that will unfold in the near future. I'm going to take us back to Lebanon a little bit, and on the current Israel ceasefire situation. And back to 1975, as you know, the Lebanese army took up arms to fight the PLO, and at that time to disarm them, and which ultimately, as you know, led to the collapse of the army and a 15-year civil war. Now the Lebanese armed forces are being asked to disarm Hezbollah in the south and other armed factions across Lebanon. So how do you view the possibility of achieving this under the current circumstances?
We all now speak about the Lebanese army and the role of the Lebanese army. Excellent. But this Lebanese army should be reinforced. They need equipment and they need new recruitment and money. I mean, a Lebanese army with the $200 a pay for the soldier at the end of the month is not efficient. It should be helped by donors, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, the Americans, plus more equipment, I mean, to be able to control now the south of Litani, then the north of Litani. And when you say the south of Litani, you still have a big problem there because you still have Hezbollah. And you cannot, and I'm not favoring, and I will never say to go and fight Hezbollah. This should be done from a mutual understanding. Withdraw with Hezbollah, withdraw their weapons, plus one day try to recruit members of Hezbollah into the Lebanese army, like we've done in 1991, when the local militias, my militia, PSP, the Samir Jaja and others were recruited, their elements were recruited inside the Lebanese army and police. Plus the other big issue is now to control the borders. Now to control the borders is easier than before because now there's no more, let's say, the supply line from Iran. Okay. So now to control the borders might be easier with the new police or the new army of Syria, which is now a big task ahead of the West, but a big task to build, to understand and to establish.
Well, that's back in 1991. That was a political resolution. I mean, that's and you mentioned the PSP, and at that time the Druze militia or the PSP, they were a very powerful militia. I mean, you had tanks, you had rocket launchers, artillery, yeah. and yet it were politically that was a political decision to give up all these weapons. Do you foresee actually Hezbollah today do the same thing? I mean, you don't have to have a strong army to do that. I mean, if there's a political decision to give up all your weapons, it will be done smoothly like you did it back in 1991.
A political decision. Yes, it needs a political decision. In 1991, it was a political decision, plus Lebanon did that, okay, because the Syrian Hafez al-Assad was in Lebanon. So he imposed, it was a positive sign from the Syrians to impose the dismantling of the Lebanese militias. My tanks and my artillery, I gave them back to Syria. Samir Jaja was allowed to sell his weapons, I think, to Croatia, where there was a civil war there. And other militias were, I don't remember now, but they gave their weapons to the Lebanese army. Nowadays, it should be political. It should be political with conviction. We have to know exactly now who is in command of Hezbollah. To tell you the truth, I don't know. I have no idea because after the assassination of Nasrallah, who knows? I mean, who knows? But we have to take care of this problem seriously and not to force them, but not to be also lenient with them. We have to be very careful. To tell them it is for your sake and our sake. Second, in this respect, stop Israeli daily attacks on Lebanon and killings on Lebanon in the south or other than the south. We have to stop this. This goes back to the committee established by the ceasefire, including Israel, United States, France, Lebanon. That's it. Yeah. I think these are the members of the committee.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, speaking of the ceasefire, and also obviously that's in cooperation of the 1701, and we know those UN resolutions in question. Also, we have the issue of the presidency I want to ask you about. We know that President Aoun left the presidency back in October 22. Since then, the parliament has been unable to nominate a candidate with enough votes to succeed him, leaving the presidency position vacant. The Speaker of the House recently, Mr. Nabih Berri, had announced a parliamentary session for January 9th to elect a new president. Your coalition has endorsed General Aoun, the current Lebanese armed forces commander, as the next president. Now we have here in the Biden administration hopes to see a president in place very soon, right before they leave office in January 20th, while the incoming administration, the Trump administration, would like to see that occur on their time, on their after that date. So in your place in Lebanon, part of this secession, do you believe that Lebanon will have a president in January? And why have you chosen now General Aoun? Why him?
We've chosen General Aoun because he represents very serious, respectable institutions of the state. He can and he's done an excellent job in while being a commander-in-chief. Okay, uniting and preserving stability inside Lebanon. I know that there are other candidates. We've chosen in the past other candidates. When was it? I hope she's good now, May Rihani, but now she announced her resignation because she was sick, and she's sick. I hope she will recover, and others. But now in this particular moment, I think Joseph Aoun is very important, and is very, how should I say, crucial for stability, political stability and security-wise. Okay, then leave it open to other candidates. It's not our choice. We are the democratic gathering is 8 members of parliament. Let's leave it to on the 9th of January. I prefer personally to have a president during the term of Biden. Not meaning that I'm so proud. I'm so how should I say, enthusiastic about the policy of Biden. And we saw the catastrophes in Gaza. We have to see what happened in Gaza and Palestine. But let's speak about Lebanon now. For not waiting the new administration, maybe they have surprises. Maybe. And when you see the new appointees of the new administration, well, tough people. Well, I don't like it very much. So let's hope that we'll have a president on the 9th of this January. Okay, and I think that, Joseph Aoun is one of the candidates also accepted by the old administration and the new one.
That's fair enough. But do you think, this is Lebanon, we can say Lebanon is at war, and he's the commander of the armed forces. Perhaps maybe he needs to stay in place to continue that war, but it's not up to us to say that. But do you think, as president, he has a lot on his plate? Remember, we talked about demarcation borders with Syria.
Yes.
You have this ceasefire with Israel. We already have a maritime demarcation already with Israel. We need to that probably needs to do demarcation with borders with Israel. And also, is it time to go beyond this armistice agreement of 1949 instead of just a pause to go into serious discussions with Israel on ultimately peace? But is there a serious also consideration with General Aoun now be ready to do this?
No, please don't try. Let's not try to go further than that. We keep on the armistice agreement that was established in 1949 between us and Israel. See what are the points of demarcation still on the borders. Sheba farms are not included in this agreement. Sheba farms are Syrian until we demarcate the borders between us and the Syrians officially. We will see, but the Sheba just relate to the 242 resolution 242 of 1967, plus the question of maritime borders were demarcated, I think, with the help of Amos. We have also the demarcation of the sea, between us and Syria, because also there you have a problem between us and Syria. But going to peace, no. We have been historically terribly hurted. The Lebanese people terribly hurted by Israeli aggression and barbarism. Okay. Plus, we have said, historically speaking, we prefer demarcation, we prefer armistice to peace. One day, if there is a Palestinian state, we might think about peace.
How about short of peace? For example, you have the Arab countries are doing normalization and not necessarily a peace treaty. Just have some negotiation towards peace, or at least start negotiating to normalize relationship towards a peaceful South. Because remember, Israel needs to bring the Israelis back to their settlements in the north, and the Lebanese wants to bring the Lebanese back to the south. So it has to be some kind of negotiations to be done anyway. Why not take the extra step? You're going to negotiate anyway.
We are negotiating through this committee. We are negotiating through this committee. I mean, but I mean, we have to start by stopping Israeli aggression, daily aggressions, then pacify the south, control the south by the Lebanese army, okay? and then the Lebanese people, okay, don't forget the tens of thousands of Lebanese from the south that went back there, but I mean, they need also a huge effort of reconstruction. Part of the south was totally erased from the map. It's erased from the destroyed. Okay? Then, if we have all these elements in place, nobody is willing or obstructing the return of the Israeli refugees to their villages in the north. Nobody. As for the Arabs who are have already went to the Abraham Accord, well, it's a problem. But I mean, I don't know where the Abraham Accord can lead, and the relationship between the Abraham Accord and the reconstruction of the South, or the coming back of the Israeli settlers, refugees to the north of Israel.
Right. So speaking of reconstruction, the U.S. envoy Amos Hochstein always say that the diaspora, Lebanese diaspora, they're capable. You have a lot of talent and also financial capital, and most of them can do more to Lebanon, but they don't have a partner in Lebanon. Seems a lot of obstacles to come in and do good works and good deeds and participate. So from your opinion, how do you see a platform or a framework for this Arab, Lebanese American, or also Arab American that wants to contribute to Lebanon, contribute there financially, contribute with their expertise, and this phase post ceasefire with Israel?
I emphasize upon the fact of the ceasefire, implementing a serious ceasefire and stopping Israeli aggressions daily. As for the formula, how to profit of the Arab diaspora, Arab American, or Arab African, or anyhow diaspora, so to rebuild Lebanon, I think you should address yourself to President Mikati. He's thinking about transparent institutions, okay, because we have been accused of corruption, etc., etc. Okay, I think he can do the technical approach for a transparent institution that can receive this money and that can also use this money and use expertise of the diaspora adequately in the South or other than the South. This is part of the reforms needed that were required, that were asked by after the crash of 2019 and was never implemented, the famous IMF recommendations, and other than that.
That's okay. That's fair enough. I think it's we'll just wait for also, if you have a president, obviously we'll have a new government, and that will be probably one of their top priorities, is to open up Lebanon for investments or people to come and contribute and reconstruct Lebanon. So I think, and if you have more time, we'll ask one more question, or maybe I can before we conclude, I would. Did I miss anything? Do you have anything to add to some of the stuff we talked about? Something we missed you think we need to know from Lebanon, us as listeners, and also any advice for the incoming administration that you think they should take into consideration as they formulate their Lebanon policy or Syria policy or the the regional policy that include Israel. Well, your thoughts on that?
I've got to ask you if there is a policy for this new administration, if they do have a specific policy for the whole Middle East. I have to ask, because when I read the names, the special envoy for Israel, the ambassador, I have to ask, what are the intentions? I just don't see tough hardliners and totally sided with the Israeli policy. I hope they will change their mind. Somebody will change their mind to consider that, well, it's not only, the Middle East is not only Israel.
Israel remains a number one ally of the United States. As you know, Israel defense is a priority for not this administration, perhaps the next administration. You'll see more military support across the region. So I think, the region has to somewhat work around that. The United States will not be able to change that much, regardless of administration. But with that, I think we have exhausted our time for today. I would like to thank you very much for being with us. You have offered us an invaluable opportunity for me and our audience here in DC to gain your deep insights into the complex challenges and opportunities, not only in Lebanon, also Syria and the wider region. So I'll ask thanks for listeners for joining us today, and express my sincere gratitude to you, Mr. Walid Jumblatt, for being with us today. It's always a pleasure, and good luck on electing new president, and good luck on the ceasefire, and good luck on the Dahouk community writ large.
Okay,
thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.